Diddly's Happy Friday, April 25th. Video directions for the day. Remember, you have whatever time you want to go through your investment portfolio with your partner, decide if you want to sell anything, if you want to buy anything. There is a form to complete for anything that is bought and or sold, so make sure you keep track of that. If you're holding on to something, I don't need an explanation on that. We've already done that process. But if you're selling anything and or buying anything, we need to make sure that form gets completed and submitted. And again, your full amount of capital, the $100,000, does need to be spent when I peruse this next week. So just keep that in mind. When you're done with that, there are the video directions for completing the career project regarding your college tuition, how much it's going to cost you to go to school. So we've already picked a career, a state, figured out your average annual salary, taken out Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes, taken out your income taxes from the United States federal government. Now we need to figure out the education that is going to be required for you to have that job. So here is what I need to know. I need to know the school or schools that you are attending. If you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be going to school for more than 4 years. You can do it all at one school, or you can do it at multiple schools. That's up to you. Some of you have a plan of going through a community college first to take your generals before going and finishing a degree at a 4-year university. Also a viable option. But I need to know the school or schools that you are attending. I need to know the length of time that you are going to school. All right. Most of your trades programs are going to be somewhere between 12 and 24 months. Most business careers are going to be 4 years of going to school. It's going to be completely different. Some of you are going to have to go to school for 6 years or 8 years or 7 years. You're going to have to do a little research here to have the career that you want. You need to know how long you're going to be going to school. I need to know if you're going in-state or out-state, right? The cost of you going to the University of Minnesota is going to be different than a kid from Missouri going to the University of Minnesota. So I need to know what the in-state tuition is or the out-state tuition is, depending on if you're going to school here or going to school somewhere else. But I need to know the cost per year. And speaking of that, we need to make sure that we are getting the full cost. So let's do a little example here. Minnesota tuition. All right. So if I were to Google search, which is undoubtedly what you guys are going to do, what is the tuition to go to the University of Minnesota? And most people are going to find, punch it into Google, and they're going to write down the first number that they see, and it's obviously going to be wrong. This is not what the cost is to go. All right. This is the cost after financial aid. This is the additional cost. What you need to do when it comes to figuring out how much is it going to cost you to go to school is go and get the full amount of going to school, and you're going to find that in the web page. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it on Google here. So if we were to talk about the University of Minnesota, we go into the web page, different schools. We are undoubtedly a resident. Here it is, the tuition and fees, $17,000. Books, $1,000. Housing, $15,000. Transportation fees, which you get to pay regardless if you have a car, $200. Personal and miscellaneous, $2,000. Loan fees, $150. Here is the total cost. $36,400 per year. You need to get the full fee. That number that shows up on the Google is more or less just the cost of taking the class, or the classes. It is not everything that is required for you to pay to go to school. So again, when you are figuring out the cost to go to school, you can't just take what shows up in Google. You need to go into the webpage for that university and make sure you are getting the full-on cost of what it's going to cost you to go to school. So you're going to have to do a little digging here. That's not the right one, okay? If it pops up on Google, I'm telling you, there's a pretty solid chance that it's going to be incorrect. And you know I'm pedantic enough to know these things. So make sure you find out. Now, if we were to do the non-resident, right, if you're going to school out of state, here's the total cost of going to the University of Minnesota if you're not a Minnesota citizen. It's almost $60,000. All right, so if you're telling me you're going to UCLA for 25 grand, I think you're nuts. Here's the thing for school, and this is just to kind of keep people accountable here. Scholarships, yeah, you're not getting any. Mom and dad paying for it, doesn't matter. Grandparents having a bunch of money set aside for you, not happening. An athletic scholarship for all of you that are going to go play ball at the D1 level, yeah, not going to happen. You're going to have to know the full cost of going to school each year. And for this project, we're going to anticipate paying for it. We're just going to assume that our dreams aren't going to come true and that we've got a plan B. And when things happen, we're going to be able to handle it. So to complete this form, once we know what the in or out of state tuition is and the length of time that it costs to go to school, or that takes to go to school, then we can fill this out, right? We're just going to more or less keep the same price of going to school every single year for however long it takes. And we're going to keep the interest rate the same every single year that we go to school. We're just going to keep it simple. So let's say we've got $1,000 tuition to go to school. It's not. That is literally about a class. Of that, then we're going to have $49.99 in interest added to it. So the total cost then would be $1,049.99. That's what I'm asking you to do for this part of the assignment, is figure out what the tuition cost is, what the financing cost is, because you are going to finance this yourselves. And you're going to do that for each year. One more thing I want to point out here before we go down to the bottom is if you are going to graduate school, if you need a 4-year degree and then you need 3 more years for a master's, your master's cost is going to be more expensive than your undergraduate cost. So there should be an increase in cost if you're going past four years. If you're a person going into trade schools, there's a pretty good chance that it's going to be an 18-month program. And what you're going to find out is the number of credits that you need to graduate, which is perfectly fine. And they're going to give you an estimate of how long it's going to take you. Just remember that a full-time student is 15 credits a semester. So if you're going to school and it takes you 60 credits to get that degree in plumbing or carpentry or being an electrician, totally fine. If it's going to take you 60 credits, then that's going to be 2 years, right? Because you can take 15 credits a semester, and you're just going to have to calculate that out here on this sheet. Going down to the bottom here, once you figure out your cost for each year plus the interest, you're going to calculate your grace period interest. This is where you're going to just add up the cost of college without any of these additional interest amounts, and you're going to multiply that by 0.025, and then whatever that grace period interest is, you're going to add it to the total cost for each year of going to school so you can find your total number. That would be tuition plus all of the interest. We're just going to assume that you're deferring your interest until the end. Whatever this number is here, and it's going to be a big number, that is going to be the amount of money that you are going to have capitalized into a loan that you are going to try to pay back in 10 years. All right, and I know some of you are going to work ahead here. If your student loan payment exceeds your monthly income by 10%, meaning if you have a $6,000 a month monthly income and your student loan payment is more than $600, then we're going to have to adjust your payment, because typically how it still works for the United States government is your student loan payment cannot exceed 10% of your income that you make each month. But more or less, those are the directions to figure out the cost of going to school. You need to do a little bit of a deep dive into the actual tuition amount. You need to add on the interest for each year. You total it up. Then you carry the total amount of interest and tuition all the way down here and add it with your grace period interest to get the full, total, and complete cost of going to school. I will see you guys next week. I think I'm back in the building Monday next week. But hopefully I can answer any questions that you may have. If it's more pressing, obviously shoot me an email, and I'll do my best to help. Hope you're all well. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week. Go Spartans.